cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right. Welcome into the View from C-Deck after a long delayed wait for us here to get these CFP rankings so we can react to them. Come on, man. ESPN, I got a bedtime. Your boys got work in the morning. We're not getting paid for this yet. But the instant reaction is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Nothing really even stands out except for the SEC. There's like two rankings, and they're both like around 14, 15 that stood out to me. It was Ole Miss staying in the top 15 at 14. And Kansas State moving in the top 15 at 7-3 with no wins outside of their conference games against other 7-3, 6-4 type teams to speak of. But then I look at the rest of it. I guess you got to put somebody there at some point, and it comes with a lot of stuff. But I thought both UCLA and Washington, are getting underrated, especially Washington after their big win. But Casey, any thoughts real quick? I'll read them to you real quick. Ohio State. Or Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, Tennessee 4, LSU 5, TCU 4, Tennessee 5, LSU 6, USC 7, Alabama 8, Clemson 9, Utah 10, Penn State 11. Then you have where Oregon dropped at 12, Carolina at 13, kind of interesting with Clemson at 9, and Ole Miss 14, Kansas State 15, UCLA 16. Washington 17, Notre Dame there at 18 for us, so we've got two top 18 wins. Florida State at 19, UCF Tulane 2021 after their game, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, NC State, Cincinnati rounding out the top 25.
Nothing, I mean, if you're going to complain about it, it'd just be nitpicking anything.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see Penn State and Utah's resume side by side. Penn State, I don't think they have any good wins, but their losses they got to be equal to any other two-loss team losses. So that would be one thing I would want to look at a little bit more, comparing those two teams' resumes. But I mean, they're one apart from each other, so
Mm-hmm.
much. But it will be nice if they keep winning. I mean, they're playing Rutgers this week. I don't know who their last game is. If there's a lot of teams ahead of them that can lose. They could probably finish the season as like a top 8 team. That win will look a lot better. And if Notre Dame can continue to win, they beat USC. They might move all the way up to like number 12, number 13. They'd be knocking on the door on the playoff in a couple years.
Yeah. Now I was just looking through Washington and comparing them to Ole Miss. They have a bad loss. And Ole Miss obviously doesn't, even though they got blown out by LSU. It's still not a bad loss. But they have nothing in the win column. Ole Miss has beaten absolutely nobody.
Who'd Washington lose to?
They lost to Arizona State as well as UCLA. But they have two top 17 wins, or two top 12 wins. They beat Utah and Oregon.
And they're behind.
Right. Which is kind of funny because they beat Oregon. They have the same record. They have the head-to-head victory at Oregon, I believe. Oregon they may have lost to Arizona State, but Oregon lost by 46 in their opener, so it's equally bad. Those things always mess with my mind. When teams have the same record and they played each other and one team won, I think the team that won should be ahead of them.
They're distant, man. They've always, I swear, they have always credited big wins, and they don't really care too much about losses. They'd rather have those big wins. But what you just said completely nixes that.
You forgot, Casey. You forgot SEC, but SEC. Here's the wins for Ole Miss. Troy, who is like 8-2, but they're Sunbelt. Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tulsa, puke. Kentucky, puke. Vanderbilt, puke. Auburn, puke. A&M. That's their win.
So their best win is Troy.
Their best win is Troy, pretty easily.
Oh, wow. And Washington has two top 12 wins, but they have worse losses. So they're crediting.
That loss, but they lost out LSU by 25.
Yes, crediting Ole Miss for their losses,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they're not crediting Penn State for their losses.
Right. Well, now we'll compare them to something. So since there's not much to talk about, pretty much the same teams control their own destiny that controlled it last week, with Oregon being the exception, being knocked out. Now just USC is the only hope for the Pac-12. And I do think it's a little bit interesting for Clemson being at 9 there. If they can get ahead of Alabama before their conference championship, which seems unlikely because they're very similar caliber teams, both of them do. But we'll see. We'll see if the committee does it. So I make my own rankings, though. And a real quick rundown. If you're familiar with the Ohio high school rankings, it's not totally dissimilar, but not the same at all. But it's basically wins matter. It's a point system. So you get points for a win. You get extra 0.5 points for what I deem a quality win, which is a totally objective formula. You either win 6 in a row with 2 P5 wins, 7 in a row with 1 P5 win, or 8 in a row with 0 P5 wins. And then you have to have at least 8 wins with 2 P5 wins. Same thing, 9 wins with 1, 10 wins with 0. Or you can go on a 4-game conference win streak. I made this when everybody played 8 games besides the Pac-12 at the time, I think. So it means you went on a half conference season win streak or a half regular season win streak. And then you had to hit a certain number of thresholds. So it's the same for everybody. There's no like preseason rankings that take into account to make you a quality team. So you get that, and then you get an extra 0.25 for the quality wins of your quality wins. So if, say, we play Michigan, they're a quality team, and say they beat 2 quality teams, that's a 2-point game. 1 for the win, 0.5 for Michigan, and then 0.25 times 2 for their quality wins. So it makes sense that the good teams you play who beat good teams give you more. Now, you don't get any bonus. If you beat a 7-5 team or an 0-12 team, it's the same thing. That could be considered a weakness, but here's my thought. This is to decide who the national champion is. The national champion should be beating all those teams, no problem, and it doesn't matter. And my formula has produced my qualifications have produced 29 to 35 quality teams every year, which is a pretty good number. That means like the top quarter to like top 25 to 30% of college football is considered a quality team there, and I think that's a good number. So here's what my rankings end up looking like. Long-winded story. I got Georgia at 1 at 11.75 right now. Ohio State 2 at 11. Tennessee 3 at 10.75. And here's the big thing. Clemson at 4 with 10.5. A half point ahead of Michigan and TCU, who are T5. Then I do have LSU right behind them, and then UCLA right behind them, but then UNC right behind them. So actually UNC and USC are tied because they both played no quality teams and have 9 wins. So those are the teams that I think should control their own destiny and do control their own destiny, except not in real life, because Clemson and UNC both appear to need help. And I think it's crap. And then the big part is Florida State, who is also a quality team, pretty much they're 19th in the poll. So even the committee thinks they're a quality team. They beat LSU. They beat the SEC West champ. And yet Clemson's sitting there behind an SEC West team with more losses than them. And they beat Florida State. It makes no sense. 2 of them with more losses.
Yeah.
Didn't Florida State beat LSU? Why are they sitting behind LSU?
Yeah, and they have 1 less loss.
Yeah.
It's just that complete inconsistency because they're obviously valuing LSU's wins.
Yeah.
And it's just SEC bias. I mean, that's all I can say.
And I hate Clemson. All Ohio State fans hate Clemson.
Oh,
for good reason.
Yes, but I completely agree that from what you're saying, it would make sense that Clemson should be ahead of LSU.
Mm-hmm. And they are, and mine. But they will not pass LSU for sure.
No.
Assuming LSU wins out. They'll pass Bama, but yeah, they won't pass Bama until they beat UNC. So what's their ceiling? They need some chaos. And I don't think they should. I think they should be kind of controlling their own destiny. It should be possible for them to finish ahead of Tennessee at this point.
If chalk happens, it'll be Georgia 1, us 2, TCU 3, if you call this chalk, it'd be probably USC 4, Tennessee 5,
Clemson 6.
Clemson 6 probably, and and they'd be a 1-loss champ at 6 behind a 1-loss non-champ.
Yeah, but I guess being 6 doesn't matter there.
It doesn't.
Because 6th and 5th, and I think they would all deservedly be behind USC because the Pac-12 I think is better and definitely has a better top than the ACC does. The ACC's got quality teams, but they're all more like middling quality teams. Teams that go 8-4, 9-3. There'll be a bunch of 10-2 teams in the Pac-12. Well, maybe just 3, but 10-2, 9-3.
If you do complete conference, obviously, I mean, there's a bias, but SEC is the best conference. And then Big 10, Pac-12, and Big 12, I think, are all, you could put them any which way you want, top to bottom. Mm-hmm. And the ACC is by far the worst.
I'd say I might put Pac-12 2 this year, top to bottom. I'll put the Big 10 3 just because I think the top is way better than the top of the Big 12. But I think the bottom, if you combine the conferences, the bottom 4 would all be from the Big 10.
Yeah, but we'd have the top 2.
Yeah, top 3.
I
think Penn State and TCU are they're similar teams, I think.
Yeah. So
I'll take you though, because Sean Clifford versus Duggan. I'll take Duggan all day. Yeah.
That's the only reason I said you could easily say we're the second best because of our top 3 teams, but our bottom 5 are trash.
So that's the only real discrepancy I see right now is I think Clemson's ranked too low, which is something I never thought I'd say. By the way, this Revenge Tour canceled shirt that I like that you have is not spelled correctly.
What?
Shouldn't it be a double L there?
Oh, should it?
I don't know. Now I'm blowing my own mind. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just an idiot.
I can't even think. I mean, cancel has 1 L, but
yeah.
I don't know.
That was a producer when we need one.
What'd you say?
That's all right. Well, that'll do it for this week. Obviously, in a week that should be pretty chalky either way, besides the USC-UCLA game and Oregon, besides the Pac-12 semifinals going on out there. Expect these rankings to look the same next week, but we'll see, and we'll react if we feel like it's we'll react either way, because why not? And I can just shit on them for not following my own rankings. But that'll do it for us. Like us, comment, follow, and we will see you guys next week.
Hey guys! Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.